So Milo, you talked with OG. You said he
I
was
had
gonna be
asked him, and he said he was going to come on.
okay. All right.
Um,
He might be scrambling to get his Amish hat and shirt on yet. So that
Maybe.
might yeah, that might be what's going on over there. So all right. Well, maybe we can kind of get started until he's here, possibly. So I want to first say I I really, since everything started, I wanted to see you guys talk together. I don't know much. I don't know any of you personally. I don't know anything about Amish Rescue Mission. I've never been a part of it. I've never even really looked at them. So I haven't really been involved in it, but I would like to see, or I would like to, I guess, just have you guys kind of talk. And I know there's friction, obviously. There's disagreement, but want it to be respectfully. So if we can try not to talk over each other and try to do it that way, I think that'll be best for everybody that's listening. Because obviously a lot of people are talking about stuff, and I would just like to kind of try and get a sense of what's really happening or what is really going on. So my first question is and I just have a few questions, and then I just want to kind of go back and forth, and we can kind of talk back and forth. Um, like Milo, you feel free to ask Eli, or stuff that you disagree with him. Just have it respectfully go back and forth with disagreements that you have, or stuff like that. So I don't know. I used to think a long time ago. I used to think Eli Yoder was the. I heard him talk about Amish rescue missions. I thought he was the founder or started Amish rescue missions. I later learned he was not the founder, I guess. So I'm curious if you're still involved with Amish rescue missions.
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking that. Actually, a lot of people thought that I was the founder and operator of Amish Rescue Mission, but I am not. Her name is Rachel Hawley. She started Amish Rescue Mission when that 12-year-old girl out in Seymour, Missouri, got pregnant by her brothers, and that disturbed Rachel to the point where she said, "God, what do you want me to do?" And she prayed about it, and God laid it on her heart to start a mission, and that is where Amish Rescue Mission was founded. And shortly after, she reached out to me. She saw me online. I had been interviewing a lot of victims from many different Amish communities, Mennonite communities, Hutterite communities, and just interviewing them and allowing them to share their testimony and what they've been through. And when she's seen that, she said, "Hey, would you be willing to just volunteer and kind of team up and help me?" And so over the years, about 12 different members kind of joined in here and there. Some came and went, and it was 100% voluntary. I was already, helping victims, so it was easy just kind of join in and kind of be the voice. And so here recently, because of the uproar, what I want people to understand is I was the speaker. I was kind of like the spokesperson. I've been to more than 50 different churches over the last 2 years speaking for Amish Rescue Mission. I was not even part of the board even. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people thought I own and operate Amish Rescue Mission, but while I was there, it was literally being a voice, making awareness, speaking about why they do what they do, what their mission is, what their goals are, all of those type of things. So I was kind of the voice on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and also in person in different churches to
What's
help
happening?
raise money, even to get resources in place. So that is what my role was. And to kind of wrap it up, as a spokesperson and being the voice and being out there as the voice for her and the team, I was the first one to be attacked because I was the voice for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So Amish Ochi just came on here, so introduce him. I said you were probably struggling to get your hat and your Amish clothes on. Maybe that's why you're a little bit late.
Actually, I had a tax appointment at 6:30,
Oh,
and it ended up being about 7. It was about 45-minute drive, so just
okay.
got back home.
I wish I would have my taxes done. I still got to go through that tail end. But yeah, so basically what I said is we're going to have dialogue going back and forth. You guys, I asked a few questions. The first question was, I don't know if you directly answered it. Are you still a part of Amish rescue missions or not a part of it at all?
That specific question this morning when I spoke with my lawyer, I cannot go there because Amish Rescue Mission has to speak when it comes to that issue. There's a list I have here in front of me what I'm allowed to answer and what I'm not allowed to answer because we have some legal counsel right now that is in control of all of this because of some of the things that came up just in the last 48 hours. So that specific question, I'll have to rely back on Amish Rescue Mission to either do a video or answer for anybody that has that question.
Okay. Okay, so basically what we had just talked about, OG, was I asked him because I had never heard of Amish rescue missions. Like I've never been involved with it or anything like that, and I always thought Eli was the owner or the founder of it. And basically, he said he was the spokesperson, which
Right.
I'm gonna just ask some questions here, and I have no in the incentive here. Like I said, I've never personally met any of you. I'm not here to kiss anybody's butt. I just would like for us to talk together.
And
And to,
I'm okay with that.
yeah, good, good. Just so everybody's okay with it. So, I mean, for myself, I see you said, being you were the spokesperson, you were the first, uh, like, line that people went to, which is understandable to me because I do believe the spokesperson is a vital, important part. And as the spokesperson, you have a big responsibility, right? A big
Right.
responsibility
Yeah.
as far as what you're representing. Because if I go and say, it's like going and saying, telling somebody to buy a product, but it's not good, right? So as a spokesperson, you want to know. And the other thing I've heard is that I have heard and that I was specifically asked to ask a question about was about some of the people that were involved in Amish rescue missions that people had concerns about, that were had past records to where they shouldn't have been working with kids, and they were involved in some way, whether they were paid or not. I have no idea whether they were volunteers. I have no idea. I can't speak on that, but they were there to answer phones. So can you explain as much as you can on that, like what was the involvement there, or what was it, a misjudgment on your part, or that you just thought it was okay, or what happened there?
Yeah, I'm definitely allowed to answer that question because, first of all, again, I'm the spokesperson and I was not assigned to put people in a position or say, hey, can you come volunteer? That was not my duty to do that. That was the CEO, Rachel Hawley. She's the one that does all of those. And I don't even know the discussion between all of the members that were part of the team. I just know that me, I was already, like I said earlier, interviewing victims over the last 2.5 years, way before Amish Rescue Mission even became a thing. And so Malin Miller was the one that came onto the scene and asked me. He said, "Hey, can I share my testimony?" And I said, "I've been having a lot of different people on to share to share testimonies." I said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'll have you on." So I had him on about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. I had him on, and he shared his testimony. And so after he shared his testimony, he went about his way. And before I knew it, he was wanting to help. And he talked to other members of Amish Rescue Mission to help those that had already had a history and were convicted and then became born again and got saved. You know, Malin, if you ever watched his testimony, he went to prison. He was a victim before that. And the same thing that was done to him, he ended up doing as well as he got a little older. And then he did the crime and did the time. Justice was served, and it was amazing how God saved him, and he was in prison, got saved. He come out. And so when he came onto the scene, he was taking phone calls, and all of us, by the way, take phone calls from our own house. In my own home, that was my voluntary position. Nobody got a paycheck. Nobody got paid a penny. A lot of people thought there was a lot of money involved. And so me, along with every other member, was volunteering what they were doing. And part of his position was to take phone calls for other, not just Amish, but Mennonite, Hutterite, no matter what background, if they had been through a similar convicted offense where they wanted somebody to, just for encouragement, prayer, somebody to speak with. And of course, if they wanted to share their testimony, I was always the guy that had I give all victims a voice. That was always my motto. I give all victims a voice. And so he was
can I say
assigned
something
that
here?
from his own home is to take those phone calls. If anybody calls in and wants help, and there was actually 3 of them so far I'm aware of, that we got in contact with him. And that was his role. He was never around any victims. He never even took a phone call for a victim, even though there was a lot of false information and lies out there saying this stuff. And a lot of people just grabbed screenshots of here and there, and they just grabbed and ran with it. And yet it was just so much misinformation being spread around. But he was never around victims. He was never, we didn't have an office, where people were like all in an office or in a room where he was around victims or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because
No,
I don't believe any perpetrator that did his time in prison and then got born again and saved, I still don't believe that person should be around other victims. And that is one thing we never did.
Okay, so Amish, you had a question for Eli?
Yes, he was talking about mailing counseling or speaking out, to other perpetrators. So, by law, somebody who is a convicted offender of that nature cannot be a counselor. There are certain jobs that you cannot get if you are a convicted sexual offender, and that is one of them, is being a counselor. Malin has no experience in this other than what he himself has done. And when I asked him about what he did, you know what he told me? The only thing he said he was sorry for was that he got busted, basically. And he never once did he admit remorse for what he did. He only ever made excuses. He said there was no education on it. That was why he did it. Never once did I hear him say, I'm sorry for those people whose lives that I hurt. And he is, to me, I'm not certain that he has repented. I wouldn't want him around my kids based on what I know. Now, yes, he has done his time. As far as the law is concerned, he's okay. But there is a reason he is on a list. And that reason is because a lot of these offenders, they reoffend. And that's a proven fact.
Correct. So, legally speaking, I guess he didn't have a job because he was volunteering, right? However,
Bingo.
It's a gray area.
myself, I would, and Eli, you can disagree with me with this, but I would see that as a huge, what would you call it? A lack of judgment to put him in a spot where he's helping, even though he has the history. It's like putting an alcoholic at a bar to drink water every night. It's a dangerous situation.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, he was definitely.
That's what I would.
He was definitely not licensed. He was definitely not a counselor. Neither are any of us licensed to be counselors, and that's why we always refer victims to actual professional licensed counselors if they need counseling. He was never in a position to counsel, but he was literally in a position like I would for you, Eddie, if you reached out and said, hey, I need encouragement, I need prayer. That's literally what his position was. He volunteered to be an encourager and a prayer warrior to intercede and pray for those that were also born again and saved. And what most people don't understand is if you're not born again and saved, you really don't understand the grace of God or even forgiveness. And that's why you have these attacks.
Can I ask you something, Eli? So
yeah,
when I first started following you, I've always thought you were, a man of God. I appreciate all the preaching that you do. I've always respected that about you. But sometimes when I watch the videos I'm not trying to be mean. When I watch the videos you talking about the Amish people, it seems like there's some Amish people or elders that you haven't forgiven. Is that something that you've had to work to do? because when I left the Amish, I harbored a grudge against my bishop for the way he treated me. I felt it was unfair, and I harbored a grudge for, I don't know, 5, 10 years, even after I got saved. And then finally, I realized that that is just holding me back, and I can never be forgiven if I can't also forgive them. And I realized that my bishop was just a human being like me who did not ask to be a bishop, and it was kind of forced on him. He was trying to do the best he could. Yes, he was a judgmental human being, but have you ever found it hard to forgive some of those Amish people for, for the stuff that they've done, or to your dad, or to you? Do you think
Yeah, I
that's
mean, when I
important
first
to
left,
forgive them?
oh yeah, it's very important. And when I first left for
Amen.
19 years before I came to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, I actually didn't forgive them. I was bitter for 19 years. Now, when I got saved in 2017, I came to the realization that I had to forgive not for them, but for me, so that I could move on. Now, the recent events, when it comes to my father's grave, when it comes to what my involvement was with Amish Rescue Mission, and all of these other things, those things was serving the Lord to help others. It wasn't doing it to take a stab at them. It wasn't doing it because I hate them. It was doing it like, for example, I just did another update on my channel today about my father's grave. I was doing that for being a voice for my father. A lot of people view that as, oh, you're just angry at the Amish. You're just taking a stab at the Amish. But yet it's a voice for my father. And I do that out of love. And by the way, if anybody thinks I'm bitter at the Amish, I've sent now over 2,000 Bibles into over 20 different Amish communities, and giving those English written Bibles into the communities to help them come to the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. And there's no bitterness in me to where I feel like I need to get even in any way.
Can we hear from Milo? What's up, Milo?
Hey.
Yeah, you've
So
been
my
pretty
question
quiet
to
down
Eli
there.
is,
What?
he says that Malin didn't answer or talk to anything, but you guys only have one hotline number. Do you have more, or what is that all about?
That's all they have, is that one hotline number. Yeah.
So if somebody were to call in and Malin was the on call, how would that work?
Every time somebody called and wanted to be encouraged or needed prayer, that they had a similar conviction as a perpetrator, those were always referred then to Malin's phone number. We all had his personal phone number, but Malin was never, ever directly involved with the hotline, Amish Rescue Mission hotline phone number, and he never took one single phone call from the hotline itself. Now, his wife actually did, but he himself never was attached to the phone number itself. And if somebody called that was a convicted offender, then we would then forward that personal number to him.
Okay, so it came in and somebody answered the hotline, and then they pushed the calls out to the different people that were on there.
Right. Right now, we actually had more than 20 different positions such as that, depending on what the circumstance was. Like one of them was called Sam's Team. We got names for every different group. If somebody called and said, hey, this is what I need, this is the help I need, then that person would be referred to that group or that person. So everybody had their voluntary position, that in the same way with Malin. When it came to that specific reason why they're calling, we would then refer that to Malin. And me, I had a specific role as well. And each individual, depending on what the call was about, we would refer to that person, because there was like more than 20 of us in the last 2 years that were involved with different positions we volunteered for to play a role in. Now, me, as far as, hey, I want to help somebody and really counsel them, I couldn't do that because I'm not qualified. I don't have schooling. I don't have a degree. I'm not licensed. So we always have to refer them to the ones that are licensed. So you can see how different levels of need all across the board, and every person was assigned and in place for that need.
Okay, so Milo, do you have any more questions for Eli?
Yeah. So my question, just on my train of thought. So I've heard that if a child calls in sometimes about abuse, that you guys have just asked them to dial 911. What is that all about?
Okay, so those were some of the haters and attackers that were trying to set us up. I can't go too much into detail. That's one of them on my list. I can't go too much into detail because those are being investigated. An open investigation, I can't discuss those issues, but I can tell you this much. There was people trying to set us up and trying to call to make it look like we were turning down victims, but it was actually people just trying to set us up on that.
Can I just say something real quick? That I have no problem with what Amish Rescue Mission is doing. I think it's a noble thing. I know that molestation happens. It happened a couple different times in my community. The one guy's passed away now. The other guy left the Amish. But you know, the victims are my friends, and I it's not my story to tell, so I'm not going to talk about it. They don't talk about it, you know, on their social media. I don't think it's, you know, I will admit that it is something that happens, but it also happens amongst the English. It's not an Amish thing; it's a human thing. Unfortunately, it happens everywhere, and that's sad. But when you made that video, you know, my response to that had nothing to do with Amish Rescue Mission. I really stand behind what they do, and I had never thought that they don't help. But that video raised a lot of questions that maybe you can answer. And in the beginning, you said you left the Amish because of pedophilia, or the Caden said that. I don't. It wasn't necessarily your words, but it implied it through the whole video that, you know, you were protecting these kids, and then it showed the billboard, which you did in Berkholz, which now you've mentioned Kenton and Berkholz, which isn't even an Amish community anymore. And then you said that you're smuggling phones to these kids to help them out. It showed 5, maybe 10, 12-year-old Amish boys. And then the response video, when you said they were 22, 21 years old, that was when I started being like, wait, there's like 3 different things here that don't quite add up. That was my thing. And, you know, it's like, and then I had people attacking me in my video saying I was defending pedophiles when the video wasn't even about that. So why mention it 3 or 4 times when you're actually helping adults? That seemed to me kind of unfair. It seemed like, and I have had people comment on my videos saying they cannot stand the Amish and that, you know, they want to get rid of them. I had to report some comments. And the only experience they've ever had with Amish is what they've heard from Eli Yoder. So if you're a Christian loving person, you shouldn't be poisoning people against a whole group of people. Because if you used any other race for some of these words that you talk about, you know, these are my family members. If you said, you know, any other race and you said some of these things, you would get banned for hate speech. But since the Amish don't report it and don't complain, nobody cares about the Amish. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I left, but they're still my people. It's my heritage. All my relatives are still Amish. I have nieces and nephews that are growing up. I don't want people looking at them and thinking they're bad people just because of, you know, misinformation.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate your opinion on that, and I can see why you would defend the Amish because you have a lot of family there. I also have a lot of family there. I also defend my family until they break the law. There's family members.
Right. And if
Personally,
any of
I
my
have an
family
uncle that
members did
also
something
is
like that, I would definitely not defend them. Has nothing to do
right.
with
And
pedophilia.
because of all the information we have gotten, nobody knows how many phone calls I have gotten before Amish Rescue Mission was ever created and during Amish Rescue Mission's existence. How much information I have, a list that I cannot show on here, but if I showed you in person the list I have of information that poured in, and just today when I was speaking with a couple members of Amish Rescue Mission, there were 10 more calls just in the last 48 hours. If you actually looked at that list and the information that is coming in, I think you would probably view that just a little bit different. I also believe in freedom of religion. I praise God for the Constitution, but not one religion, I don't care if it's Amish, Mennonite, I don't care what religion, you're never above the law. And some of the stuff that's coming in right now from many different communities is quite staggering. And if you saw some of that information, you would probably change your mind pretty quick. Now, the stuff you mentioned about that video with the phones, everything you mentioned there, I'm not responsible for because it was on another person's TikTok video.
I mean,
Since has been
I can
removed
admit
because
that.
I requested. I'm talking right now. So I requested that to be removed, and it was removed because there was words that were added that I did not know were going to be added, and I asked them to remove it because what I said was the phones, which I did before that. And by the way, after that video, I've done a couple more, but I'm not going to do videos and make it known anymore because I'm communicating with these people. But what he said in the video was something in the beginning of the video anyway, the first like 20 seconds. I did not approve of that. So since I did not approve of that, I asked him to remove it, and so did my lawyer. And so therefore he went ahead and removed it. So all the things that you're bringing up on that video, I can tell you that I did not even approve of that either in the beginning of the video.
So, I'm trying to understand. Was the video, you asked him to remove the video or remove part of what was said on the video?
I actually asked him to remove the entire video because he teamed up with me and collaborated with me. And we actually wanted to get more word out there as far as the Amish Rescue Mission as an organization at that time. So he came and we were at my dad's graveyard, got a couple clips of that. And then also he wanted to be part of my next mission as far as getting the phones into the community. Now, one of the things that people didn't realize was when we got phones donated, we gave them away for free. But when we bought them and had money in them, then we obviously wanted some money out of them. And some of people in a couple communities were offering a couple $100 a phone, but we sold them for $100 a phone. Now, when this took place, I did not tell him to put words in the beginning of the video saying, well, we're going to make us like a side hustle, make some money off these kids. That's one thing I did not approve of. So because of that.
Yeah, weren't you there when you made the video or no?
Say that again?
Weren't you there when you made the video? So didn't you hear what he said?
No, we actually did a couple clips and then he went back home, and then about a week later is when he edited the video and put it all together.
Okay. And then you asked him to take it down.
Once it went viral on YouTube and TikTok, I told him, I said, look, what you said in the beginning, I do not approve of. This is not going to go over well. And obviously he saw within about 8 hours that it was not going to go over well. And I said, hey, will you just respect me? I know it's your channel, it's your video, but if you respect me, you'll take that down. I will kindly ask you to remove that video. And then he removed the video.
So when he said those words, you were nodding your head. Like agreeing.
I agree.
What's that?
When he was saying those words, you were nodding your head in agreement.
In the video?
At the beginning of the video.
So again, when I was recording,
go ahead.
When we were recording, we did 3 different locations where we recorded a couple clips. And then when he put the video together, he was at his own location where he lives at and put the video together and edited what he wants to say in the video.
So he didn't send like an approval to you?
No, the approval was never sent. And actually, he apologized for that and said, if we ever collaborate with one another ever again, what he's going to do is tell me exactly what he's going to say in the video. And even if he does it at home, even if it's not with me, and he's at home and he edits the video and says what he wants to say, he said in the future, he's going to send that to me and get my approval before it ever gets posted on social media.
My thing is, if you did have a problem with it, why didn't you ask him to take it down right away?
Oh, I did ask him to take it down.
And he just didn't do it?
The thing is, it was his channel, and it took a little, everybody has their own thing that they want to do.
So why did you not say that when Milo made the video? Instead, you just basically said that they were 21 and 22 years old. You just doubled down on your position, and you just, instead of, even though you had just changed your story, which means the first story wasn't true, which, if you're asking people for money and donations, you really don't want to be seen as not speaking the truth. Once people start doubting you, and that's when the whole Amish Rescue Mission thing, when I started doubting them, was when I saw all the inconsistencies and you just kept changing the story, which means not telling the truth. One of those stories wasn't true.
Well, with what he said and what I said was different, so that doesn't mean I was changing the story. My original phone video I did when I did one phone under a bridge, that man was 20 years old. And all of the other clips that we have done, if we are short clips, like 1 or 2 minute clips, if we don't get all that details in there, what people do is they assume things and they run with it. And
there was no assumption. There was pictures of young boys on the video. Pedophilia was mentioned at least 6 times. There was no assumption. There was no assuming. It was right there. It was insinuated by you or Caden or both. It was insinuated that this is what you were doing, was helping kids. Then Milo makes a video calling you out, and I was staying out of it at this point. And then your response to him was, well, they weren't kids, because when he called you out about them not having money, you said they were adults with jobs. Well, you know, I've been Amish. You can just drive right to the store and buy a phone if you're an adult. Who's stopping you?
Right.
Why not
I'd
ask
say
their
probably
driver to
90%.
take them?
I'd say 90% of them buy their own phones. Just like in my
True.
community right now, many of them have phones. They got them themselves, but because of the again, the spokesperson being the voice, so many of them call our number, so many of them reach out. And so when that request came in for phones, I was a little surprised because we've never had that request before. So that was kind of new to us. But
I
in
was
order to
too.
smuggle them in and do our thing, it was something that, like, just recently I did a couple more, but I didn't do a video on it because of the uproar. But here's the thing. Everybody wants answers. I don't, if you're doing your thing and you're out there doing your thing or whatever, I'm going to let you be. But when we are do our thing and we're doing whatever video, we don't have to answer to everybody. It's my content, my channel. I don't have to answer back to everybody and try to please everybody. Just because it was a short video and I wasn't able to go into details about it, that doesn't mean I got to give you or anybody else an answer.
When you're talking about my people, yes, Eli, yes, you do. And you're also talking about the Lord's children. Everybody is the Lord's children. If you're a Christian man, then do not spread misinformation about a whole group of people. You say
Never
that the
did.
Amish people will not make it to heaven, right? Will they or won't they?
Only the ones that do not put their faith in Jesus Christ for salvation. That is clear in the Bible.
Okay, well, you don't know how many that is. So when you say that, you know, the Amish people, there's videos on your profiles of you talking about how the Amish people forgive these pedophiles and take them right back in the church after, you know, after they've done their penance and they've repented, you know, and they forgive them. And you acted like it was a bad thing. And I could go back and find the video. You basically said it was a horrible thing that they forgive them, but then you turn around and forgive Malin. What is the difference? Is it because they're Amish? Because that's discrimination against my people.
No, it's because they keep on repeating because they know they're going to be forgiven by the church. So they have many repeat offenders. It just keeps going. In Malin's situation, he did the crime and did the time. And therefore, you don't put him around other children ever again. You don't put him in a church group with a bunch of children. And he never was around those. In the Amish, when they're forgiven, they're around kids again. They're around all kinds of other children left alone. They're in their own home with their incest that they just committed with their own daughters. And they're not separated from that. That's the difference between an Amish perpetrator and Malin that you guys are all accusing him of.
So how long have you known about this Amish incest, as you claim it, that goes on?
All the way back when I was still Amish. My own uncle got both of his daughters pregnant, and he got by with it. And right now I'm working on one where another one of my family members got his daughter pregnant and then took her to another state and got an abortion. Are you telling me that's okay?
That's terrible. I'm glad my family didn't do that. That's terrible.
Thank you.
And no, I agree that those people should be turned into the law. But there's also a video on one of your pages about Amish incest, and you say that it doesn't happen too often in that video. And it's like maybe a year ago. That's why I was asking since how long you've known, because it's not too long ago. There's a video up there saying that it doesn't happen, you know, or it's not common. And I agree, it's not common, but it does happen, unfortunately. But in that video, you said it's not common. And now here lately, it kind of feels like it's all you ever talk about. And I can see how, if you're seeing all this information coming in, it makes a little more sense how, you know, you could think that it's everywhere. You know what I mean? It makes a little more sense.
It's actually,
that's what I'm thinking. Because if you, like, the Amish are 350, 400,000 people. So that's a tiny, tiny number of people. But if those are the only people you deal with, you could pretty quickly start thinking how many people there are. And I myself have a big problem with the way they deal with it in my community. So just so everybody knows, we're all old order Amish, I think, except I was Swartz and Trooper Amish, which is very similar. We thought we were even a little better than you guys because we had a little bit more strict rules on certain things, right? On certain things, right? But I do have a problem with like 100%, like the people that do it. But then also there is people, a lot of people that know about it and they don't report it. I also do
Yeah.
have a problem then with, because the times it's reported is tiny compared to the times that it actually happens. Or so it was in my community. It was never reported in my community until years, one case years later. But there was
Right.
multiple cases that happened and people that knew about it, but they did keep it quiet. So
Right.
it's a very
Yeah.
tricky situation where there's
I'm
a
gonna
lot of
be.
really good
I'm gonna be.
people and they feel like they want to solve the problem, but they feel like if they go and report it, they're going to be disowned by the
Right.
whole community, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I'll
Well,
be honest with you. Just even a year and a half ago, I would have been defending and saying, hey, look, that's a very rare case with what's going on with some of these cases that surfaced at the time. I would have been ready to say, look, that's just a fraction of the Amish. But once I started hitting police departments, sheriff's departments, churches, and making educating law enforcement, me and my police officer brother did a video together on YouTube, which went viral, and it's to educate. It's solely based on educating law enforcement. When we did that video and we took it out into police departments and sheriff's departments and churches, one thing that really opened my eyes from a year and a half ago until today was how many police officers, sheriff's deputies that showed up and said, hey, for 30 years or 40 years, we have always believed what the bishop said. We respect their religion, we respect their Amish, their lifestyle, which is awesome. I'm glad to respect that, because they always tell them, hey, when you get this report of incest or pedophilia or child molestation, all of those things, the Amish bishop says, hey, we're going to take care of this. So a lot of these sheriff's deputies and even chiefs have told me, we just believe them. If the church says, hey, we have this taken care of, we will take care of this in a church, we have discipline. So therefore the sheriff's department tells us, we just walked away. And now, since they are informed and educated about the church system and their forgiveness and how they forgive the perpetrators and move on, now they're starting to wake up and they're like, wait a minute, now it's our turn to do something.
So one thing there, Eli, I would still say it's a fraction of the Amish that actually commit these crimes. So when you
correct.
said a year and a half ago you saw it, I would say it's still a fraction of a fraction. And I do expect it to actually go down. That's one of the good things with the exposure that has happened now. I do expect that to go down because people are going to see that people are held accountable who commit those acts. I would imagine it'll go down even further, which is a good thing. But I would still say it's a fraction of damage that a
Yeah,
small
I
fraction
would I would
that
love to
actually.
I would love to say it's a fraction, but just because of all those law enforcement agencies that I've been involved with in the last year and a half, it's like, whoa, it's a little bit more than a fraction. It's like way more than what we anticipated. For example, there was a sheriff that reached out to us, saw our hotline phone number, reached out and asked for me directly. So I gave him my personal phone number, got on the phone with him, and he was telling me some things that people are saying in the community. And he says, are these signs that I should be concerned about? Should I go out and ask this Amish guy? And I said, absolutely. At least go ask him. And you know what? I was blown away an hour later when he called me back and said he went out there and asked the Amish guy if he was messing with his daughter, and he actually confessed, and he's behind bars today.
So can you say what community that is or no?
It was in Wisconsin. That's all I can tell you, because it's
Okay.
under investigation right
Okay. So,
It was
because
concerning a 14-year-old girl, and in the same community, a year ago, there was another 14-year-old girl, and her friend reached out, and justice was served. They went to court, and when they went in court, the DAs and the judge were blown away that the perpetrator got 4 weeks in the ban, and the victim got 15 weeks in the ban because they called us. You're not supposed to call out to the worldly people, especially the ex-Amish that are running Amish Rescue Mission. And that is why the victim got 15 weeks in the shunning in the ban, and the perpetrator only got 4 weeks. And that's when a judge woke up and told us, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this whole picture. So
Mm-hmm.
because of all of these cases, because I know all of this and I've been involved in all of this, that's why I'm glad for this interview, just to kind of give you guys an idea the way I think. You know, a lot of
So
people think, oh, you're just saying all of this negative stuff because, oh, you hate the Amish, you're bitter. No, this is reality. This is stuff that's playing out right now. We have advocates that are in court next to these victims. We're seeing this play out.
So one quick question. A lot of people think that you know just about everything about the Amish, you know, and I've seen a few things that I think maybe you've forgotten. But you just said that the victim got 15 weeks in the shunning period. Since we only have church every 2 weeks, how's that work? It was either like
Well, I
6
can tell
weeks,
you,
8 weeks. I've never heard of anybody getting an uneven number of weeks.
all I can tell you is on the time of the court date, on that day, it had been 15 weeks to that day because that's what she testified on.
Yeah, like I said,
Interesting.
I don't. I think there's a lot more in some communities. Somehow it gets away in some communities, and then it kind of spreads. I think there's
Yeah.
some very clean communities, and then there's some communities that have it much more, and that doesn't necessarily go by how old order or new order they are. Some of the old order Amish are very clean. Some of them are not, but then some, as far as like even Mennonite people, have some of these problems. So
I
I
think
think
it's just a human problem. You know, it's
yeah,
not,
it is.
you
It's
know,
definitely a human problem that is.
and if people see
Right.
it not being punished, that does make it worse, I think. Because in our community, they reported it. But like Malin said, is that they didn't report it in his community for a while um, because they didn't want him to leave the Amish. But then
Right.
somebody knew had a friend that was a state highway patrolman, so they told him about it. And since there were multiple victims, he said the state had to take over, even if the victim didn't press charges. So that's how he ended up in jail. And he said it was a booger then, and it's a booger now. He never once said he was sorry for
Yeah.
what he did. He just said it was a
Right.
booger that you know they turned him in. So that
Yeah.
was my
It's
question with
really
him not feeling repentant.
right. Right. Well, I understand your concern, but here's one thing I want to say. You can never ever put all the Amish as a whole in the same boat because we have safe houses that are literal Amish people that have absolutely 100% volunteered to help if any victims want to remain Amish. We will never force them to be in a religion or in a lifestyle that they do not want. These particular people are very good, loving, born again Christian Amish people that hate evil as much as I hate evil. And so a lot of these Amish New Order or whatever you want to call them, you can't even put them even close to comparison with the very old order Amish communities. It's some of the Schwarzentuber Amish, some of the old order Amish, the more, what do you want to call it? Like the more secretive groups that are kind of cut off from the other groups have the worst crimes and the worst abuse than the other communities. Like, for example, there's a bishop that reached out to me and he was in Southern Ohio and he says, hey, I've been watching your videos. He goes, I love what you're doing. And I just want you to know we have mandated reporting. And if they don't report the crime and it gets to me, the bishop, I report and call the sheriff. And I'm like, man, thank you. I love you.
I believe that deters others from doing it as well. And if they see it happening, you know, they just get shamed a little bit and they don't report it because I do feel like some preachers probably don't report it for fear that the kids believe the Amish. And
Right.
that's not right.
True.
You know, that they should not do that. I agree with you there. There needs to, and actually there's a law. I know it's a state law in Ohio. I don't know if it is nationwide, that if you're in a position of power, like a preacher or something like that, the head of a church, and someone comes and reports something like this to you, it is mandated to report it.
Yeah, it
Yes,
Now
is.
I don't know about a
absolutely.
confession. Like you know that I know the priests don't tell people what their people confess in Catholic Church, so I don't know how that works. But if
Yeah,
they find out, they're supposed to. I do believe.
yeah. It's also mandated in Minnesota here, which
Good.
is interesting because talking about a human problem, it's happened in some of mega churches here, where a powerful the leader of the church has a pastor that he sees up and coming, and something happens, and he'll just cover it up because we don't want to lose the pastor. So it happens, at all levels where and he's mandated to report it. Now, in that one case, he actually did get caught, and then it goes back to him. So if in certain states like that, if it's reported to the bishop, he doesn't do anything, and a year later, law enforcement does something with it, that will come back to him if it was reported to him.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyways,
All organizations have.
So, hey, Milo,
Go
the
ahead.
people here are saying you're sleeping, so you got to say
yes,
something.
I'm gonna wake up. So I want to say why I made that video. I mean, I found that video very offensive about the phones and stuff. And hopefully, Eli, you can understand this a little bit. I think people took this way out of context of what I was saying is that you and me both call Amish people that have phones hypocrites for having a cell phone, a hidden cell phone. So my thing is why are you taking cell phones to the Amish? I know you're trying to get pedophilia, but you're giving them to Amish when you're at the same time calling those Amish people hypocrites. Now my next thing is you're giving Amish adults phones, an iPhone, and I don't think it's a good idea because those people could actually become abusers by looking at certain things. I don't know if that would be wise on my part, but what's your intake on that?
Well, I can tell you after speaking to a law enforcement officer, he said something to me about the Amish community having phone issues. And I love what he said. And it goes like this. America, it's illegal to have fentanyl, heroin, and many illegal drugs. But are they here? Yes. Most Amish communities, as of 2023, if you haven't noticed, they're not allowed to have phones or even smartphones or flip phones, but yet they're making their way into the community. They have them anyway. So what we decided to do, what I decided to do, I'm going to take this on me because this is something I did without informing anybody with, Amish Rescue Mission or anybody else I was affiliated with. This was something I took on myself. And one thing I did was if they're going to get it themselves anyway, I'm going to be a resource to try to give them that phone, give it to them for free. Some of them were offering money. Now I actually got some donated to me where I can give them to them for free. But anyway, the whole reason for doing it was to give them a phone wherever they want to get it. Gave me a location. I'll make sure it's there and they can have it. And since that happened, I've been getting some pretty valuable information from inside a couple of communities. For example, there's one of them that texted me and said, hey, just this Sunday, I was able to, he was baptized. So obviously he was sitting through the confession that a man confessed to a sexual sin that he had committed. And so how would we get that information if we didn't get that phone into their hands? Now, I also think that is very hypocritical, just like you said, Milo. The Amish are not allowed to have them. And yet they always get them no matter if I supply it or if somebody else supplies it or if they hire a driver and go to Walmart and buy one. They always seem to get their hands on one. They sneak them around and then maybe eventually they get busted. By the way, out of the 5 so far I've smuggled in, only 4 are communicating. I'm guessing the 5th one has probably gotten busted and they smashed the phone. But I'm just saying, when you say it's hypocrisy, I agree with you. But I want you to understand it's already impossible to keep these phones out of these Amish communities. And when they request it to a driver or whoever's giving me the word, I'm going to try to help them out. And if they want one, I'll make sure they get one. But I'm not going to give a young child, a very young child one. It depends on the situation. I have had hundreds of requests for things that I did not go for. It depends on the situation, what their age was, who is requesting it, and why. And some of the things you just don't want to get in.
But I mean, you see my point of why I said what I said was because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you probably shouldn't call them hypocrites or stuff like that moving forward if you're supplying them with that, with the phones. Which, I mean, for me, I think if you're Amish and you want to be Amish, you should follow the rules. And bending the rules and stuff like that, you should leave the Amish. You have no business even.
Exactly, but
I do agree with that.
If you're going to be Amish, you might as well be all in, right? If you're going to be Amish, be all in or nothing, right?
I guess
I would agree with that as well. If you're going to be Amish, you have to follow the rules, or else,
right.
or
I can see having a little.
some people still would call Amish OG Amish because he wears, like, I'm totally fine with that, as long as you don't claim to be a part of the Amish church. If
Right.
you
I'm
want to be part
ex-Amish.
of the Amish church, you should go respect their rules, etc., etc.
So
I
how do you
wasn't.
guys feel? Do you still feel like like your Amish heritage? You know, we were all born speaking Amish was our first language. I mean, we couldn't speak it when we were born, but that was the first language we learned, I assume. I know I learned English at like 5 or 6 years old. So that is our heritage. We were born speaking a different language than everybody else. We didn't go through high school. You know, we can never go back through high school. We can never actually experience what it was like growing up as an English kid. So I'm an Amish person that has left, so ex-Amish. But ex-Amish still means Amish. I'm not an Amish person by the rules, by the church, but I'm an Amish person by birth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I have no problem when people call me Amish. I call myself Amish a lot. I've met a lot of ex-Amish people who will get all haywire if I call them Amish. I don't
I know.
understand why. I love that I grew up like that. I went all the way to Switzerland to see where they used to live. I seen the castle. I seen everything. I
That's
love the
awesome.
history. I absolutely love the history. Now I'm probably not as conservative as you guys, as far as like Milo said, phone. Concerned with the phone as to what they'll see. I come more from the side of, as far as my kids, if I have kids, there will be limitations, but I want them with a lot of information, basically. Otherwise, they get a hold of it and they do what I did to my parents, which was revenge, terribly, because it was all restricted from me. So I was always so curious. I would rather than what I've seen happen with my situation, leaving my parents, where all of a sudden there's no relationship. I would rather have disagreements with what they're doing and be able to still see them, still have a really good relationship with them. So it's a little bit of a fine line to dance on, but
I agree.
I
I
I
do
would
have a I do
no
have
go
another
ahead.
question for Eli real quick. So
Yeah.
that last reply he did a few minutes ago, he was talking about how he smuggled the phone into this Amish guy, cool, and then he actually was sitting through a confession and he texted him about this guy who confessed to this crime. And he said, we would not have known about this without this phone. It's important that these kids have these phones so that we can find this out. But my question is, Eli, what can you and the Amish Rescue Mission do for this kid that the cops cannot? Like, why would he not be better served to report this directly to law enforcement? Like when I was a kid, I don't know, maybe 8 years old, I learned how to use a phone, and I knew how to dial 911. In case there's an emergency or anything, if you need the police or an ambulance or a fire truck, I knew to run to the neighbors and call 911, and I had access to a phone. So I guess my thing is, what did you do about it when you found out about this guy confessing that the cops could not have done? Or did you not end up just referring it to the police anyway? In which case, why not just tell people to report it to the police? Why do they have to report it to you if you didn't do anything about it?
First of all, I want you to understand Amish Rescue Mission never, ever agrees with what I was doing. That was my thing I was doing. I did that personally. Getting those phone things I was doing to get them into the community, that was an Eli Yoder thing. Amish
And that's
Rescue Mission
fine.
strongly disagreed. You understand that?
I do.
That is not what Amish Rescue Mission stood for, and that's one thing that I did on my own on both occasions, and all the other ones I didn't do a video on. That was something Eli Yoder did. That was my little thing. When these people reach out, I get a kick out of it because they're reaching out and they want these phones, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to please them, because I remember when I was in that situation, I would have done anything if I had a buddy on the outside to assist me to get a radio, a headset, or whatever it may be. So Amish Rescue Mission can never be tied into the phone situation that Eli Yoder was doing. Okay, now let's go to what you asked the question on. The reason Eli Yoder did that is because if I get information, such as my uncle that I ended up reporting 2 years ago. If I get that information, I want them to know that if they want to report this, I'm here to assist them to report it. You know, Amish Rescue Mission ain't got to be involved. This is Eli Yoder. Like what I've always done for the last 3-4 years is if I get information of a crime that the church is now going to cover up after a confession, I'm going to let them know, hey, I can report this for you. Are you willing? I don't want to rattle on you. I got to protect every single person that reaches out. I have to protect them. So what I do is I make sure I let them know, if you want to report this, I can report this. If you want to stay anonymous, your name is going to stay anonymous. I will never give a location. I will never give a community, but I will reach out and report something if it is a heinous crime where people are getting 30, 40 years in prison out here and them just being forgiven in the Amish church. So that is my motive for doing it. And I'm going to be, before we go to the next question, I do want to say this. What I did a few times as far as concerning the phones, that was highly against Amish Rescue Mission. And I just want you to know, when Eli Yoder does some of his own things he's always done, Amish Rescue Mission did not agree with that. I just want you to know that.
Noted.
So I would actually agree that former Amish people can assist the kids much better because they can speak the language if it's properly set up, professionally set up. They can speak the language. If I think of myself as an Amish kid, when I wanted to try and leave, I don't know. It would have been much harder for me if I would have had to call somebody that was not a former Amish to try and help me out, because I don't know. It's something about like growing up Amish. I can tell somebody that's left for 30 years, if I talk with them for 5 minutes, I can tell that they grew up Amish. It's not, you can kind of pick those people out. So for myself, I do think there would be an advantage there as far as talking to the kids, in their language and
Right.
being able to relate with them.
Right. Yeah. It's shocking and mind blowing how many of them reach out like they're speaking the Dutch language. They get on the phone. And once you gain their trust, like they'll tell you all kinds of information. They'll tell you their feelings. They'll tell you what you're going through, what they're going through personally, and also what others are going through and what's happening in the community. So it's an amazing, wonderful thing to be able to communicate and gain their trust. Now, is that against the church rules? Yes, probably in most Amish, New Order, Old Order, I don't care what they are, Schwartz and Trooper, they're not allowed to have phones. But since they're going to sneak them around anyway, no matter how they're going to get them, they're going to get them. It's because we're in 2023. But to be able to gain their trust and gain their respect, they feel so loved and respected when they're able to communicate with somebody that knows their language.
So does Milo, you've been awfully quiet down there. Do you have any more questions?
Sometimes that's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Just listen.
Why so loud?
But no, I wanted to talk about something else so even myself, there's videos I made about the Amish and found out that my information was not quite as true as I thought it was. Rules have changed. Things have changed in the Amish community. 23 years ago when I was Amish, it's not the same anymore. Like Kenton, they're actually paying a $50 tax. They don't have to have a license on their buggy, but their license plate, but they're paying that. I didn't necessarily know that. And things have changed. And I just feel like a lot of the Amish channels have really spread a lot of misinformation about the Amish, about the rules and stuff like that. I had a guy actually reach out to me. He said, really, is there good Amish people? Because he was getting the vibe that all Amish were not good on some of the rules. So I feel like myself, as well as some others, like sometimes I think we need to do our homework a little more.
So I'm going to ask a question from all of you. Have any of you ever exaggerated stuff about the Amish?
I've not really went over exaggeration, though.
I haven't either.
Well, I can
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I haven't exaggerated anything. Sometimes I've left things out. Like I don't talk about these topics because I don't think, well, like I said, I don't think it's right to. I know that I've noticed that when I talk about certain touchy topics about the Amish, that everybody's, I get more views, I get more followers, but I'm not here for that. I'm just here to educate people, and I pride myself a lot more on being as truthful as I can, You know, sometimes I joke about stuff. Like, obviously, the first video I did, I was exaggerating when I said the Amish bishop gave me the authority to recruit people, and we're going to give you 10 bales of hay and a free starter horse if you join. So that was kind of like a joke. You know, it wasn't meant to be serious. Some people did take it seriously, though, so I guess you could call that an exaggeration. Although I did let them know in the comments that I was just kidding around, you know. So I try to be as truthful as I can when I'm making videos about the rules and situations.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing, being out 20, well, this year will be 25 years. And I like what Milo said, you know, things have changed. He's been out 23 years, and I've been 25 years. And I remember the first time a couple of the former Amish came up to me that came out of my community. And they're like, hey, I saw your video. Did you know that rule don't apply anymore? And I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, well, I didn't even know that, because over the 25 years, I mean, I've been out here now longer than I was ever Amish, because I left when I was 18, and I'm 25 years now that since I've been out. So some of the things that I've shared before was my personal experience. And then I find out that some of the rules have changed. So for that reason, I changed on some of the videos. I've even deleted, I think it was 5 videos I deleted this week, where I went way, way, way back over a year ago, because some people were pointing some things out to me. And I'm like, okay, well, I got that one wrong, because the rules changed on some of, you know, the church rules, as far as, you know, being shunned for certain rules or whatever it may be. So I went back and changed that. So as I learn more and communicate with other former Amish, I'll get more of those details and not get misinformation out there.
And like you said in that video about the Troopers, that all the different Troopers commented on, you know, about the toilet paper and the cigars. I had also learned, because I knew some Troopers, and the ones I knew, they could also only smoke brown cigars. It had to have like a natural leaf. So I actually thought that was true as well, and I've actually spoken about this in videos as well. But then I found out when you made that video, it got a lot of exposure and a lot of replies. I found out that some communities don't have that rule. So I guess the thing is when we realize that we've spoken wrong, there's nothing wrong with admitting that, you know, hey, I was speaking about the Swartzen Troopers, and I didn't know all the Swartzen Troopers. The ones I knew were like this, but, you know, I guess not all of them are, you know.
Right. Yeah. I've learned to, like, there was 12 different ex-Swartzen Troopers that I spoke with. And there was several of them that said, yeah, we did not use toilet paper at all. So I based it on that. And since all of the backlash, I thought, do I really have to start going into videos and saying, okay, in Kenton, Ohio, this was this, like being specific. Like, it's almost like all of these former Amish that are now on social media are worse than the Amish themselves, where if you speak one word wrong, boom, it's like a bomb going off. It's like, really, do I have to be specific and say, okay, now this community, this and this and this?
So
it's ridiculous. It's like this little ex-Amish bishop out here that's worse than the Amish bishop.
So I can say, I have definitely exaggerated stuff. I make no bones about it. Most of the times it's in a comedy form. It's kind of trying to be entertaining.
And you do that. You do that well.
I think it's clear. And sometimes some people get confused by it. And they really, and then I'm like, well, what's your IQ? Holy, I thought that was so clear.
There was one you did that was hilarious. It was so funny.
You know, and then it's also about, I make no bones about it. I have done this about how you tell the story. You know, I can say it was in the middle of the night when I was going down the stairs. That is different than, yeah, and it was in the middle of the night. I was, you know, so the way you say it, like, it sounds much more dramatic, right? And like, for that, I'm not gonna apologize for it. I'm not gonna try and sit here and say no, I never did that. Of course, it makes for a better story, right? It makes for a better. It's not that it's not true, but the way you deliver it makes for a more entertaining story. That's just how it is. I don't try to deny it. I don't make any excuses for it. If people don't like it, then, you know, they don't have to like it. It's fine.
I mean,
Go ahead. Can I ask you a favor though, Eddie?
Yeah.
Stop doing that handsome smile at the end of all your videos. You're making the rest of us look bad.
That's that's the, you know, that's the only thing that works for me. So I
like it though.
Other stuff.
I've done videos like that too. I mean, obviously people know that I was joking, hopefully, like making joking things like that. I don't try to exaggerate. I try to be truthful about the Amish if I'm talking about them. But I mean, I have messed up.
Right, but wouldn't you agree, Milo? Even being truthful,
I mean,
and
your videos are
I
different
don't think
from.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think there's an art in storytelling,
Yeah,
and
yours. The way
you
you
can
say
tell
it
a
is
story in
totally
a way
different.
that is is more traumatic than another way, right? And I don't think that's wrong.
No, I have no problem with like yours is more joking the way you're saying it, and it's different the way you're delivering it. I have no problem with it.
Because when if you exaggerate things, if it doesn't make the Amish really look bad, it's just funny. Like that's one thing. But if somebody could take it the wrong way, and again, I'm not saying that was Eli's intention with that video he did with Caden, because if Caden made the video, maybe he was just adding these words for flair and for drama. But when there's at least over 100 people coming to my page on the video where I point out how it's not even about kids, so it can't be about pedophiles, and they're accusing me of defending them. Does that make sense? It's like these people all got the wrong message, and it's okay if it's a joke or whatever, but if it makes people look bad, I think we have a responsibility to be fair about where we came from, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So I have a
Yeah, I
question.
agree with that, and that's one of
I
the reasons
got
I told him to delete it and asked him to delete it, because it was just misinformation.
I didn't even know it had gotten deleted, so I appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
Yeah. I have. Uh, I've never deleted a video, but if I have something that isn't that I would misjudge on or mess up on, I would definitely either delete it or make another video explaining whatever. So
so there was
Right.
one thing
Yeah,
somebody
I
wanted
do.
us to ask, and this question is for you, Eli. So after I made the video, I felt like you actually went to your followers and like sickened them onto me and told them to hate me, which I expected to get hate. I did not do it for cloud. I expected to lose a lot of followers for doing this. And you went and made a video about how you're a peacemaker, but yet you kept going and kept going in the videos, cheering them on. What was that peacemaker thing? What? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I was not calling anybody out. I didn't mention like names about somebody doing something wrong, because I always do my own thing and I respect everybody else's opinion and what they're doing. So what I did was I wanted to get some truth out there for what I meant in the video and get some facts out there, because everybody was taking it the wrong way. So I wanted to get reunited, I'm about a peacemaker and love others and love their opinion. No matter what their opinion is, it might be different. And as far as Eddie, when I first stumbled across him, he had some videos where I'm like, wait a minute, that is so stinking bizarre. How is that true? But instead of doing a video and saying, hey, I'm calling you out, that is a lie, I'm like, you know what? That's his experience. I'm going to let him run with it. That is his channel. He's doing his thing. And if I had a huge problem, I would have just called him up and said something to him. So the reason I did that video is to try to bring some peace and try to get united and not continue with the division, because a lot of people, I felt like, were either attacking me or attacking you. And I wanted to get some facts out there, because I didn't want people to just run with what they're hearing and start hating on either me or you, because that's not what Christians do. We're supposed to be united and peacefully and lovingly agree to disagree.
So, I have a question. Did you guys ever talk together, or because what I was wondering is because everybody's going, "Rrr, rrr, rrr," all the people. Why you didn't like do an interview together so that you could go back and forth or talk about it?
And we sent a couple messages back and forth. I expressed my concern, and Eli said that he's going to do it the way that he wants to do it, which that's fine with me. And I did apologize to him for offending him in the way that I did. And hopefully he got the message of what I was sending and why I called him a hypocrite. I didn't call him a hypocrite for going and giving those kids or selling them with them the money. The reason I called him the hypocrite was because he has blocked other Amish people that have phones, has blocked them, and calls them hypocrites. So that was my message. And a lot of people didn't, I don't know if they didn't even listen to what I was really saying, and it just kind of exploded in the wrong direction. And then a lot of this other stuff after I made that video, and then a lot of other stuff came out where people are stepping up and saying that Amish Rescue Mission didn't even try to help them. They reached out and they didn't get help and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff opened up after I said this. Not my intent was not really to have that open, but I felt like, wow, like if some of this stuff behind this is true, wow, I really did something. If that's what I could do, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There was just a lot of misinformation, and a lot of people took it the wrong way. When these short clips, short videos, if it's me doing it, you doing it, Amish OG doing it, I don't care who's doing it, when there's not a whole lot of details and it's a short clip, it's easy to take this stuff and run with it. And one of the things I see more than anything, after more than 30 people started doing videos and just attacking, was they took screenshots here and there, they believed what they were hearing, and they just ran with it and they said, these are the facts. And yet they didn't know the whole story. And that's where I believe everything just exploded like a nuclear bomb, because they didn't have no facts. They didn't ask. They didn't reach out and say, hey, Eli, is this true or that? They were just taking everybody else's, what they were posting and taking screenshots. And then it spread like gangrene. And before you knew it, it was just completely out of control.
Now, there is people that have stepped up that have been contacted through Amish Rescue Mission. And I'm not really talking about that tonight because I'm still gathering information. I want to get my facts straight before I speak about that. But we're still gathering information from people that have contacted Amish Rescue Mission and have been in that. So, like I said, I'm not really speaking about that tonight, but we're still continuing to do research and trying to get the truth.
Yeah. So
Yes.
just to clarify, like I said in the beginning, I had never heard of Amish Rescue Missions, and I had originally thought Eli was the founder. And maybe I missed it, or I'm not sure if you answered the question, Eli. Are you still a part of them, or have you disassociated with them completely? The Amish Rescue
that same question.
Yep.
That same question came up in the beginning. Remember, that specific question is on my list that they have to answer. Yeah, that question they have to answer. I cannot speak for Amish Rescue Mission because I do my own thing. Being a spokesperson and being on videos and speaking what their mission's about and trying to raise money and try to get resources, then I'm the voice for the last 2.5 years. So when it comes to these issues legally, with what has been going on recently, they have to answer that question as far as my involvement. That is their legal team, and my legal team are communicating. They're going to take care of all that. But as far as my involvement, you can reach out, you can call them, you can do whatever you want as far as getting that information.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious, and I must have slipped on that because you did answer that before. I was just curious because you were, I mean, you say you only were the spokesperson, which to me, in a lot of cases, in a nonprofit, is one of the most important positions. It is, to draw an analogy to myself, it's like going to a church. The preacher's held to a higher standard, at least where I attend. If he's at the bar drinking alcohol at night, you're kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? So they, like, as a spokesperson, you're kind of held to a higher standard in a way. So
but
I'm not sure if
getting a salary, without getting paid, I didn't get a single penny for any of it. And being a spokesperson, obviously, I'm the first one that's going to get attacked, obviously. So I see what you mean.
Right. No, I understand that, which is what a nonprofit is, right? I mean, there's different kinds of nonprofits, but I'm not sure. Did you understand the level of responsibility being the spokesperson? Because I feel like that's like, if you're, a lot of people seen this organization and they seen you as the head of it because you have the most reach, you have the most influence, and you can drive a lot of traffic to this organization, right? So I
Right.
think there was a big responsibility, and a bigger standard, for than just a regular person that is not, because once you start raising money, and then it's people take it way more seriously and stuff.
So I
Right.
got
Yeah.
another
Yeah. That's
question.
exactly why they came in.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead,
I
OG.
got another question. I was on YouTube and I saw this Step Out of the Boat conference. Somebody sent me the link for, actually, it was Malin Miller did a speech there. And again, he mentioned a couple times in his speech, he was said, about stuff. He was like, sorry, not sorry, or something like that. It wasn't about what he did, but he never once said he was sorry for what he did. Or that, he just said that he accepted Jesus. He never said that he was sorry in that whole speech. It was about, I don't know, 30 minutes long or more. But Rachel Hawley, and this is a question about the Amish Rescue Mission, not about you. But Rachel Hawley said in that video, in that speech she did at the Step Out of the Boat Conference 2023, you can YouTube it. She said that a lot of times these people that call in are just people who have gotten themselves into an unfortunate situation. And she said I could go into detail. She kind of insinuated like it might be, a boyfriend and girlfriend. Maybe the girlfriend got pregnant. So, or maybe she didn't have a boyfriend. Maybe she was just being friendly with somebody. And that it turns out that it's not actually that they're making up the stories. She actually said that on the speech, and that the one lady, she tried to give them like 6 different homes, and she just couldn't help them. And now that lady, I guess, is speaking out. I don't know. So how often would you say, if you were part of it, or if you were there for all the interviews, how often would you say that it was found out that somebody just needed help leaving the Amish and made up a story just to try to get help? Because that's kind of what she said happens sometimes. I mean, you guys can
Yeah,
go
it
watch
does
the video
happen
on YouTube.
sometimes. Right. Oh, yeah. I know what she was referring to. I mean, I'll let her answer for whatever she's got to answer for Amish Rescue Mission. But I
Yeah,
can
I'm
tell
not
you personally.
expecting names.
Right. I can tell you personally, I have helped more people personally leave without being attached to Amish Rescue Mission. But I can also tell you, Rachel and the entire team of Amish Rescue Mission, what they specialize in is the current victims that are currently, I'll say that in capital letters, currently being abused.
And that's a
That
good
is
thing.
what they are focused on. Right. That's what they're focused on. And that is because you got to help the ones that can help themselves and give a voice to those that were silenced. That's what they focus on. Me, Eli Yoder, you have no idea how many people I helped escape that have no ties of, not saying they're being abused. Like I did a couple of videos before where Wayne Miller, William Miller was one of them. Wayne, big guys remember Wayne, Hannah, I did videos with her. Those are people, I mean, there's a whole bunch of them that I would love to interview if they would be willing to be interviewed. But that's what I do. But Amish Rescue Mission and what Rachel has established is solely focused on every victim that is being currently abused. And you would not believe how many have reached out that are even former Amish already out, and they want help for this or this or this or this. And so that's not what they stand for. And that's not what Rachel and Amish Rescue Mission stands for. And so if you're not being abused and you don't have a situation where you're right now, it's a 911 situation, and you just want help maybe
Right.
financially, I mean, you wouldn't believe the bogus calls we've gotten in. And those are the ones that we have to turn down. That's not what they stand for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand that. If people call in because they have situations, whether it's financial situations, like an organization has to have a specific thing that they do, otherwise you're a jack of all trades and you have no idea what you're doing, right? So whether it's kids, I can see that. I can see where there's got to be a certain group of people that you focus on. If it goes outside of that, sometimes it's terrible. Like people tell stories of what they're going through, but at some point you can't help everybody. So
Right. Yeah. There's even people that joined the Amish and reached out, and all at once they're like, "Hey, I need to get back out of this situation." Like, now I want to leave. I was attracted to the lifestyle. There's two of them I can tell you about where after they joined them, they wanted to leave again. And we're like, hey, are you being abused right now? No. When that answer is no, now I'm Amish Rescue Mission. That's what they specialize in. Now Eli Yoder and other former Amish I'm affiliated with, we can step in and try to figure out a way and make some phone calls and try to help that and assist that person to get back out of there. Because Rachel, I cannot make this more clear, Rachel Hawley and Amish Rescue Mission is solely focused on those victims and children that are currently being abused, and that is what they focus on. Nobody will be able to get them off of that mission. Rachel knows what the mission is, and I've even gotten that way, by the way. I'll confess that. I've even got in that way of what they're doing, and that is why I do my own thing. I do my own thing off to the side. So I think a lot of misinformation came from when I did my own videos and doing my own thing, where people are thinking, wait a minute, he's with Amish Rescue Mission, he's doing this, and it just caused a lot of confusion. But I don't want anybody to mistake on what their mission is. They are focused on abused victims only. And this Eli Yoder here, he's out there doing his own thing. I'm at the cemetery doing my dad's graveyard thing. I'm doing the phone thing. I'm doing this and that, and this and that has nothing to do with Amish Rescue Mission.
Mm-hmm. So, Milo, does any of you have any more questions that you want to talk about or topics that you want to talk about?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about cults because that's a word that gets thrown around a lot. A lot of people think it means culture because the Amish are a culture, but they're not a cult. Because if you look up the definition, and I know Eli uses the word a lot, and some of the communities I agree with can be cults, like Bear Calls, Ohio, like that. You can make a video about them every week. They deserve, a lot of help. I've heard some terrible, terrible things. Like, thank you for putting up the rescue mission poster there, because I don't think it was enough. Because I don't think you could ever actually get in there to actually help because of the way the community is set up. It's kind of isolated, and they don't let anybody in. But it's a terrible situation what's going on there. I don't have any problem with you exposing people who are actually like Sam Mullet, because I went to church with him when I was a kid. But when you look up the definition of a cult, there's three things that define a cult. And one is they have one leader. One. Now, the Amish, there are 15 Amish bishops in my community alone. So that definition is out. Another thing is that a cult, a lot of the members of the cult give most of their money, most of their income goes back to the leader or to the organization that they're in. In my community, we didn't give anything to the Amish church unless it was needed.
Uh-oh.
Awesome.
He kind of blacked out there, so we'll see if he comes
Well,
back.
I do want to give him credit on the Berkholz Amish situation over there where we put the billboard sign. That is probably, like the sheriff told me, when we first reported that incident, which they had already known about him because he did prison time, and because of COVID in 2020, he was released. And now I'm calling him with new information. He said something very specific, and that'll jibe up with what Amish OG just said. And it's this. The sheriff, Abdullah was his name. He's now passed away. But he told me on the phone, he says, Eli, more than 300 Amish bishops came down there to try to reason with this Bishop Sam Mullet. And he literally told them to get out of there. He said, I want nothing to do with you. I'm doing my own thing. He just basically shunned all the other Amish bishops. So, yes, he is a cult. He stands alone. Very dangerous cult. Very, very dangerous situation. That's why we have the Amish Rescue Mission billboard sign put up there. That's why Rachel wanted to put it up down there, just because of the situation. Now, I will go further and say this. When my Amish community told me that if I have a different belief and I want to leave the Amish, that I would be going to hell. I heard that from my own brother. I heard that from other Amish bishops in the community. When they want to control you with fear and say, you're going to go to hell if you leave the way you were raised, that's a cult. And the definition of a cult, he's right what he said, one leader. Now, I don't care if you have 15 or 100 bishops in the community like he just said, you still have one bishop in that district. He's the head bishop. He's the one that is power and control. That still defines and fits the definition of a cult, because you have a leader and you have him telling you what to do, and the elders and the leaders under him, they will come to you if you have broken a rule. And if you say, okay, I'm out, I'm just going to leave the Amish. Well, now you're excommunicated. Your family rejects you. You know, if you're not part of their lifestyle, you're rejected. You're cast out as evil because you're giving yourself over to the world. Guys, I don't think there's anything more that defines a cult than for someone to throw you out and reject you, even family, if you don't want to live their lifestyle, because that's not love.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've went back and forth on the cult thing. I know I've kind of said it, and then I think, well, and when I say it, like, it was earlier when I did TikTok, and I used to have a lot of almost hatred towards my mom because my mom was much more strict than my dad. And you just hear her like screaming, "You're going to hell." That's a terrible memory, and a terrible, like, just growing up. So, I'm careful to call them that, but it does definitely feel like that when you leave. And then the first time I tried going back, it was just mom comes out of the house like this, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute here. I was just gonna have a nice visit. So it's a oh, Amish oh Jesus, my phone died. Well,
But I
maybe
think
it's
every
still.
Amish family is kind of different. Like for me, I probably have the strictest parent of us all. That my dad is hardcore Amish. I mean, I've been going to hell from day one. Not allowed to visit. Wants nothing to do with me. But now other Amish families in Kenton, they're allowed. They allow them to come home to visit them. But I'm not allowed. My dad is a bishop, so he has to set an example. And he probably feels like maybe he'd get in trouble if he let me come home. Maybe that's the reason he wouldn't. But I know other Amish families allow the people that have left to come home and visit them in Kenton. And the same thing with like, I say my community, we only took baths once a week. Well, I found out that a lot of people actually do it more than once a week. It's not just, it's my family did that, but not meaning other families do the same thing.
Yeah, so it goes
Right.
from, because now I can go out and visit my mom pretty good. It's pretty decent, but I will stay away from anything talking about, like, I don't feel a need to tell her, hey, or to defend myself when she starts accusing me of this or that. It never goes anywhere good. It's just I will just be quiet, and I'll change the subject because never anything good comes out of it. And I have some of my brothers that would really disagree with me. Well, you should tell her the truth about being saved and da 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 da. And I'm probably not at that place. I'm kind of like, I want to have a somewhat of a relationship with my mother, if that means loving on her in a way that I don't have to tell her about the Bible. That divides us more than if I don't say anything at all. So if I say that and we're just far, far apart, I don't know how I'm ever gonna be able to communicate that to her. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I just try to be quiet, talk about things that she wants to talk about. We talk about the farm. We don't talk about what I'm working, or what I'm doing, because everything I'm doing is against the rules. So we just talk about her, and I found that to be very helpful in sort of restoring our relationship.
I've thought about
Hey,
doing the
Michael.
same or loving my dad, just not really. I think he feels like attack. He's like, you have a cold love. I think I have a good love. But then when I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I want to apologize to my dad for the way I was when I was young. and say, yeah, maybe I did have a cold love because of the way you treated me, but not just, I just want to love him. I don't even want to like go into anything because I can't change him. Only he can change himself.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I came to as well. If I can, uh, I don't need to, here somebody says you must speak the truth about Jesus. Well, I agree with that. However, I can't go preach to my mother and say, hey, you can be saved through, by putting your heart in Jesus and believing in Jesus. It's just going to go to a very unloving place very, very quickly. So I think, ultimately they have to decide that for themselves, and I wanna have as good of a relationship with them as I can. So
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, I have many a times, just loved on my mom and tried to tell her the truth about salvation through Jesus Christ without religion, and it didn't go over very well. So I usually back off. I know what you mean. Like, you want to keep the peace, you want to keep on visiting. Matter of fact, I will admit this here tonight. If my mom, from what I'm hearing here recently, if my mom says I can no longer come visit her or see her, if I continue to put flowers on my father's grave, I will actually stop and remove the flowers in order to still go visit my mother. She's only here for a short time. In order to love on her and for her to accept me, I will actually remove that and stop doing that. Because one thing, a peacemaker and loving your parents, you'll do just about anything to be able to gain that. Because my mom's getting old. She's not going to be here very long. So from what I'm hearing just in the last 24 hours, she may be cutting off all ties if I continue to put flowers on her. Guess what? That's not a big deal. I can stop doing that just to be able to communicate. So I love your approach, Eddie, is to just go out there, and just love on her and talk about whatever, the weather, whatever's going on, but not those touchy subjects where they believe, man, that's up the world or whatever.
So
uh-huh.
I wanted to touch one thing about the flowers thing. Is that's one thing about, you make it sound to your viewers like you're putting flowers on there and they're removing them because of you. The Amish are not allowed to have flowers on their graves. If another Amish person planted flowers, that person would actually be put in a ban. So they're removing those flowers because they're just not allowed there, and they don't want people to see the flowers there, and not necessarily because you are putting them there.
Right. Yeah. I've actually explained that on the very first video I ever did, because they removed Andrew Slayball's flowers that he put on his siblings. And I shared in the very first video I ever did on that is, no matter who puts the flowers, it's against their religion to decorate a grave. It doesn't matter if any person of the world, English people, put flowers there. They will remove it because that's just against their religion. Now, recently, though, I did communicate with two drivers that talked with the Amish people, and they said, hey, we did judge Eli's father. We did condemn him and put him in the corner. And so therefore, if he's going to continue to put cameras up to record us, we're just going to let him be. We don't want no legal trouble. We don't want to go to court. We're just going to let him be, but please don't put flowers on the other people. So that's what I did. Today, I took them off of Andrew Slayball's siblings and put them over and put them all on my father's grave. So we're kind of finally coming to an agreement there, but you are right, Milo. It does not matter who puts them on there. They do not want that. It's against their religious beliefs.
Uh-huh. One more thing. Oh, I was gonna ask you, so in my community there was so my parents never said we can't come to their funeral. My dad has passed away. We did go to the funeral. Um, they don't say like, yes, come to the funeral, but they don't say no, don't. They leave it unanswered. But there was somebody that said, I remember they were in the same community there. They had a lot of kids that said, my kids are not allowed at my funeral, and they all respected it. They all didn't show up. If your parents would say that, would you stay home or would you still go out there?
My mom told me and my brother face to face. She told him first. He called me. He was angry. So I said, no way. She did not say that. I'm going out there right now. So I got there. It was already after dark. there was already other family there visiting and having dinner. So I knocked on the door, and she came outside. And I looked my mother right in the face, and I said, "Hey, I'm hearing that you told my brother earlier today that we are not allowed to come to your funeral when you die." I said, "I need to hear directly from you. Did you say that?" And she hung her head for a minute. She looked back up and she says, "Yes, you are not to attend my funeral when I die, because my dad, which was a bishop, the original Amish bishop, Levi Beachy," and she said he would not allow that. So I'm going to respect his wishes. And you are not, if you're former Amish, if you're not part of the Amish church, you are not allowed to be at my funeral. I said, "Okay, Mom, I respect that." Now, since then, with everything playing out, being a thick-headed Yoder skull like I am, I'm going to put them to the test. See, I don't just go down easy. I'm going to actually show up, and I'm going to have my Amish clothing on like I normally do when I visit my mom, and I'm going to see who drags me out. Who's going to stop me? We're going to find out.
And at your
So,
mother's funeral?
go ahead.
You're talking about showing up at your mother's funeral.
Yes.
Okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So my dad made it clear not to come to his funeral, and he actually made it clear not to come and visit him anymore. And I actually am going to grant him his wishes. I'm not going to go visit my dad, and I'm not going to go to his funeral. That is one wish that he has made, and I'm going to give it to him out of respect for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
and you
mother.
got the right to do that. We all have our own decision to make, and I respect that. It's one of those things where I'm not going to allow religious control, power and control to control me. I'm not Amish anymore, so that's why I'm going to go out and basically put your money where your mouth is. If you're going to say it, then back it up. That's my mentality. Just to go out there and show them that I have the right to be here. I'm family. I'm her son, and when that day comes, I'm going to put them to the test. Now, another thing, Milo, that I wanted to share with you. My brother, by the way, your dad, the bishop, your parents, they live with my oldest brother, which married your sister. They live with them. And just recently, when I tried to visit my oldest brother, he actually told me, "Don't come out here anymore." I said, "So what's the problem?" And he said, "Well, we got the in-laws living here now, and he's a bishop, and we don't want no backlash. So just don't come out." So because of that, now I'm being cut off there too.
Yeah. I mean, last time when I went to visit them, I did go into my sister and I talked to her first. And I felt her kids, nobody just really cared that I was there. They didn't even they just kept going about their business, pretending like I wasn't even around. And she's like, "Well, they're out back." And I kind of got out of there. But a couple years before that, when I showed up, they were all sitting at the lunch table and they were eating lunch. And they all welcomed me, and I mean, we were talking and stuff like that. But when I went back the second time, I did not get that same vibe, and it just my dad. It feels like I'm coming to my funeral. Literally, I'm walking into my funeral, and it's just something that I've decided that I'll go visit my other brothers and sisters, but my parents, until my dad passes, now my dad were to pass, my mom, I'm sure she would let me come and visit her without any problems. But I'm going to grant my dad his wishes because at least that's all I can do for him, I guess.
Yeah. That was my mother when I first left. She wanted me. She wanted limited. You can't just keep coming out here. They did talk about parking on the street, which they never actually made me do. Then I could always park on the driveway. But I did limit it a lot, and I sent letters. So just so they know, kind of, I'm doing okay. I'm moving on with life and stuff like that. So every Amish family, I feel like it's different when people leave. Some parents are a little more strict. Sometimes the mother is strict. Sometimes the father is strict. It just depends. So, but I have to get to bed here soon, so I go to bed early. But I have Amish Ochi said in the comments his phone was charging slower than it was using battery. So I'm wondering if he's still in an Amish house with an Amish charger that's super slow.
Hey, it sounds like he's going to need Eli Yoder here to smuggle him another phone.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, yeah, OG, if you're on the live, drop a comment. I'm gonna hop off here, and I want to ask both of you: do you think this was good? Do you think I was fair? Do you think I was a schmuck? What did you think?
100% a schmuck. No, I'm kidding. No, you did a good job.
I hear it a lot.
Really,
So.
I really appreciate you
Well,
coming on and doing this. Originally, I didn't plan on it, but after thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Like, if I said what I said, I need to come on and clarify what I meant about that, because it was taken way out of context. If I'd have known it was going to go so far, would I probably not said it? Possibly not. I did it in the heat of the moment, and sometimes we do things like that, and it went out.
Right.
So,
Milo, I have to tell you, I have to be honest here now. Part of my strategy, I didn't want to send hate your way, but part of my strategy was, well, if I make the video, it's going to put a little bit of public pressure on him to come and talk. So I figured, well, I'll do the video, and then he'll think, well, you know what, I can go and talk. And sure enough, here he comes. So.
well, originally I didn't want
Eddie,
to come. I mean, like I said, I wanted to clarify what I meant about the hypocrite part to everybody, and I wanted to tell Eli here like what I meant. I hopefully he knew what I meant. I don't know if he did or not. Hopefully he did. Other people didn't quite understand that, but like I said, there's still a lot of stuff going on, and people coming out and saying stuff about different things. That's not over. I want to get facts. I don't want to say stuff that is hearsay stuff. So I want to make sure that the stuff that I have is actual structural stuff that is really going to go.
Right. No,
so that is. I mean, I'm still looking into that and stuff like that. So I'm just
I just figured, as for the things that have been said, you can clarify on those, right?
Yeah.
That have already been said, right? So that was kind of my goal. My goal was just to, I figured we can all talk, and I got a lot of questions for being on one side or the other. I don't have an agenda here. I'm not a part of anybody, so I just thought it would be nice if we could all kind of talk and clarify some things and stuff like that.
Well, you are the ultimate peacemaker, Eddie, by doing this and trying to get everybody on board there. So I appreciate you wanting to get everybody on the same page and let everybody talk. I appreciate that. And for you, Milo, I have nothing against you, and I appreciate that you just said what you said about, before you do a video or saying anything, you want to get the facts. You hear a lot of different things. You see a lot of different videos. And for you to say that you want to get the facts first, I respect you for that, because there's about 30 to 40 other people that are not getting the facts. They're just getting screenshots here, screenshots there. He said, she said, and they just say, okay, this is proof. This is the facts. And there's just so many videos floating around out there. And then for all of the LGBTQ people that started attacking me, I just want all of you to know I love you just like I love anybody else. We can lovingly agree to disagree, but one sore thing that you don't know about this, Yoder, if you attack my wife and my family like you have in the last week, that's the last thing you'll do. You don't want to do that. So if you have facts and you have stuff that you want to put out there that's facts, that's one thing, but you don't come at my family. It's okay. I don't take it personal when somebody attacks me, but when you attack my family, now we got a different problem.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would never want to go beyond, if somebody has a problem, it should be with the person, right? Not with extended family. God knows I caused my family enough grief the way it is, because, local people asking them, hey, are you that, that guy on TikTok? I'm, oh, good grief. Don't bother my family. But, yeah, I caused them enough grief the way it is without, I know what, I never experienced it, but yeah, I would never encourage that.
Kannst du
Stay
noch
with the
Deutsch
person you
schwätzen?
have what's that?
Kannst du noch Deutsch schwätzen?
Oh, ich schwätz old-fashioned Dutch. Ich sag not schwätze. Ich sag schwätze. It's a little more, it's more cool. It's more old school.
Yeah.
When we were in Switzerland, it was kind of hilarious because in certain parts of Switzerland, they speak German, right? So it sounds, it's different dialects. The crazy thing is they have so many different languages in different parts of Switzerland. So in some parts of Switzerland, you can pick up quite a bit of stuff. And so you see this young kid over there going and talking, and you turn around, you think you hear an Amish preacher, and then it's a English or kid standing back there talking. So it's it was quite interesting to hear a primary language being Dutch, because we only ever heard it on Sundays, and then we spoke, excuse me, German, a primary language being German, and then because we only ever spoke it on Fridays in school, and then heard it on Sundays. So, but anyway,
Well, I really like your accent.
yeah, I think we have a different dialect than you people that are further east. It's, I don't know, is it a Minnesota thing or is it a Midwest thing? Because even here, we have some Amish communities here that are older like you, and they do have more of the accent like you have. Like they would say Schwatz and stuff like that. But no, I can still speak Amish very well. Every time I visit my mom, I speak 100% Amish. Unless if my wife is with, she can't speak Amish, so we usually speak English. But hey, thank you guys for having on.
All right, thank you.
I don't know if Milo or if Ochi is still here. I hope he thought it was fair. I didn't. I didn't try to pick any sides, and so hey, I appreciate you guys for coming on. I hope you have a good night, and God bless.
All right, good enough.
God bless you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.